Chapter 244. This time, Wuming didn't enter the space-time tunnel. Instead, he came to the outside of the world. Wuming, who had transformed into the origin dragon, roamed the outside of the universe-like world. A dragon tens of millions of feet long floated here. Looking at the translucent sphere that wasn't as big as his body but was still huge, Wuming sighed. This is probably the world of the God-slayers. Although it was a translucent sphere, he couldn't see anything inside. After all, Wuming was right beside the sphere as soon as he came out. Wuming turned his gaze to the several large spheres not far away, as well as the other spheres in the surroundings and the countless spheres in the distance. Wuming's body told him that these were all worlds. So where did the black mud go? As Wuming said that, as if in response to Wuming's words, a small group of black mud wriggled over from the other side of the God-slayer world. Wuming looked at the black mud warily. Then, on his huge dragon body, the sacred dragon mouth gathered the rainbow-colored origin fire. After the baptism of the origin moon world, Wuming also awakened an attack-type talent ability. The origin fire could be described in one sentence. Nothing can't burn, nothing can't destroy, and nothing can extinguish. Whoosh! Flames containing a strange power erupted from Wuming's mouth and instantly sprayed on the black mud. Like wine meeting fire, the black mud was burned fiercely by the origin fire. Then, the black mud was incinerated in a moment and turned into pure magic power that could replenish the outside of the world. Wuming looked at the place where the black mud disappeared, looked around, and left. Wuming went to find the source of the black mud. In every world, Wuming was like a guest in someone's home. But in the space-time tunnel and the outside of the world where Wuming was now, it was like returning to his home. After all, the origin dragon was huge after reaching adulthood and could only survive in a place like the outside of the world. Wuming felt great as though he was invincible. After flying for a few minutes, Wuming came to a stop. Wuming looked at a sphere. Gazing at it, Wuming moved slowly toward it. Then, Wuming summoned the staff of Anzi-Ergen from his body, and 2 rays of light entered the sphere. The 2 figures just now were Sebastian and Satya. The world Wuming was currently in was the world of Nazalic. As it was dangerous to descend, Wuming sent Satya and Sebastian, who were still in the staff of Anzi-Ergen, back to Nazalic. Of course, Wuming also left a message for them through communication magic. Now, I just need to find the source of the black mud. Then, Wuming flapped his wings again and flew further away. As Wuming moved forward using his senses, the spots of light around him gradually disappeared and the surroundings became pitch black, just like the black mud. Wuming tensed up. He had a hunch that he might be able to see his hometown this time. Wuming didn't know how long he had been flying. He only knew that he was getting colder and colder. After a while, Wuming stopped. A gorgeous mouth kept rotating, and the surrounding lights softly scattered. Wuming was excited. There was no mistake. This was the entrance to Wuming's origin, which was Wuming's hometown. Although he was excited, Wuming knew that he would return to his hometown sooner or later. This was also why Wuming was so obsessed with returning to his hometown in the past. But now, he didn't seem to care. However, there were drops of black mud-like substance constantly flowing out of this mouth. This was a huge scourge, and he had to solve this problem. Wuming's body told Wuming so. Now, Wuming knew why this black mud-like substance had an aura similar to Wuming's origin dragon. Therefore, this black mud came from Wuming's hometown. Wuming fell into deep thought. After much consideration, Wuming decided to enter the origin to investigate. And so, Wuming plunged into the entrance to the origin. The interior of the origin was not as chaotic as the origin of the M-Moon world. Instead, it felt like a dreamy universe. Wuming looked down. Wuming easily found the black stream of substance at the lowest part of the origin. Wuming didn't care about this for the time being. Instead, he continued forward, hoping to reach the center of the origin. Soon, Wuming arrived at the center of the origin. However, Wuming discovered that apart from Wuming's origin dragon, there were also the auras of other origin dragons. The auras of these origin dragons were so dense that Wuming couldn't help but guess what had happened. Then, Wuming arrived at the center, laid down steadily, and closed his eyes. Wuming began to act like the origin of the M-Moon world. However, this time, Wuming didn't just want to absorb the power here, he also wanted to get an answer. Just like that, Wuming's main body fell into a deep slumber. However, Wuming didn't notice that when Wuming's huge main body fell asleep, some of the black substance around him became restless. The black mud slowly gathered together and wriggled toward Wuming's side. A moment later, the black substance reached Wuming's side. When it touched him, countless lightning and holy light burst out of Wuming's body. Although the black mud couldn't be touched, it turned into dust and disappeared as if it had heard a miserable cry. Then, the lightning and holy light fused into Wuming's body and continued to protect him. Because he couldn't get any information for the time being, Wuming decided to experience other worlds as a heroic spirit. After all, Wuming had the habit of traveling and couldn't stand loneliness. Because the origin of the M-Moon world was also in this area, and Wuming's martyr's palace was rather special, Wuming easily transferred his consciousness into his body as a heroic spirit. In Wuming's martyr's palace, the white-robed, golden-haired Wuming opened his golden eyes. When he saw his current appearance, he came to a realization. This was because other than the identity of French General Sauterlec, Wuming only had 3 identities that he had personally experienced. The Connaught Silver Dragon, Sirinth. The British Silver Dragon, Vilo Sirinth. There was also a powerful being of Mesopotamia, the guardian of Uruk, the wise dragon, who did not have a specific name but only a title. At that time, it was after Wuming had experienced the Uruk that he was asked by Gaia Aleya to enter this newly built martyr's palace. I wonder how they're doing. Wuming thought of Maeve, who had changed a lot because of him, the immature Artoria, and the tyrannical ancient king, Gilgamesh. They've probably all turned into heroic spirits. After the meeting, Wuming decided to take a trip to the world he owed a favor to. I wonder if Aria managed to attack that parallel world. Then Wuming, who was sitting on the gorgeous stone chair, lost consciousness. His consciousness had already arrived on a certain card. Chapter 245. Winterwood City. A mansion located in the residential area. Mei Yu woke up early, changed into a maid outfit, did some simple cleaning, and began to prepare breakfast. Rin and Osaka also came out from the room next to Meiyo's. Strangely, Rin and Osaka was also in a maid outfit. Sister Rin, good morning. Mei Yu politely greeted. Good morning, Mei Yu. Rin and Osaka yawned, somewhat listlessly responded. After Livia finished washing up, she came out from the room. Oh, isn't this the maid Rin and Osaka? Oh ha ha, Livia saw Rin and Osaka, and laughed like a queen. Rin and Osaka clenched his fist, resisted the urge to punch Livia's face, and tried to maintain an elegant smile, looking at Mei Yu. Mei Yu, let's go prepare breakfast together. Okay. Mei Yu somewhat helplessly said. Since Rin and Osaka entered Livia's house as a maid, this scene happened almost every morning. Mei Yu was almost used to it. Oh ha 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 oh ha ha ha. Rin and Osaka and Mei Yu entered the kitchen in Livia's 3 queen laughs. Soon, breakfast was brought to the table by Rin and Osaka and Mei Yu. Livia, Rin and Osaka, and Mei Yu sat together on the chairs, and began to enjoy this delicious breakfast. Livia tasted the breakfast, and her face was full of joy. As expected of Mei Yu, every day you can make a different country's breakfast, and it's so delicious. You're exaggerating, Sister Livia. These are all made by me and Sister Rin. Without Sister Rin, I wouldn't be able to make these. Mei Yu shook her little head. Mei Yu is right. I really hope I can raise the salary. Rin and Osaka ate breakfast while gnashing his teeth. However, Livia ignored Rin Enbin's words and continued her conversation with Mei Yu. Actually, Mei Yu, you don't have to be a maid. Your brother helped me to collect the cards, so I should be the one thanking you. After Wuming left, Mei Yu was brought to Livia's residence. Because she remembered Wuming's words, Mei Yu chose to become Livia's maid in exchange for the right to live in Livia's residence. Of course, even if Mei Yu were to become a big missy, Livia would not say anything. However, Livia was even more optimistic about Mei Yu now. Brother Wuming taught me not to take other people's care for me for granted. Mei Yu shook her head and retorted. Actually, Livia did not have to specially bring Mei Yu over to live. After 5 years of Mei Yu's teachings from Wuming, Mei Yu could be said to already have the necessary knowledge for a person's life. Because of Wuming's request, and because Mei Yu was still a child, Livia wanted to let Mei Yu move over. Well, after all, this is also one of Mei Yu's strengths. If someone can also realize this, then I'll be much more relaxed. Livia laughed. Pah! The knife and fork in Rin Enbin's hand was broken by Rin Enbin in anger. Then, Luvia thought of something and continued. I don't know how your brother is now. He said he would be gone for a few days, but now it has been 3 weeks. Luvia complained. That's right, it has been 3 weeks since Wu Ming left. Because of Wu Ming's help, from the time Luvia and the others came to Japan to the time when they finished collecting the rank cards, it only took them a week to collect all the rank cards. After that, 3 weeks had passed, and Wu Ming still had not returned. Maybe Brother Wu Ming encountered some small trouble. Brother Wu Ming is very strong, so he will definitely be fine, Mei Yu said with a smile. However, although that was what she said, Mei Yu's worries still lingered. Well, thinking about it, after all, he is that person. Luvia hadn't been idle in the past 3 weeks. Just yesterday, Luvia successfully found out Wu Ming's real name through the Eiderfelt family's intelligence system. Mesopotamia, the most mysterious legendary dragon in Sumer mythology. It has the closest relationship to Tiamat. It has supreme wisdom and thousands of magic tricks, and it taught the most ancient Uruk Hyunryong. What a powerful background! Rin Enbin exclaimed. Then, Luvia laughed proudly. Just Rin Enbin, if it wasn't for me, he would probably still be in the dark. As expected, victory is mine, Luvia Sarinta Eiderfelt. You bastard, if it wasn't for you, I would still be able to find out Wu Ming's identity. Rin Enbin said angrily. Brother Wu Ming is a Uruk Hyunryong. Mei Yu repeated Luvia's words and lowered her head to think. After finishing breakfast and cleaning up the dishes, Mei Yu said goodbye to Luvia. Then, Sister Luvia, Sister Rin, I will go find Ilya first. Mei Yu changed into Suigyun Academy's primary school uniform, carried a handbag in her hand, and bowed to Luvia and Rin Enbin. Be careful on the road, Mei Yu. Luvia and Rin Enbin both nodded. However, Mei Yu began to complain. Sister Luvia and Sister Rin should be careful. Don't be like last time, because of an argument on the road and ended up fighting. Not only did it lead to a traffic jam, you were late for school, and you were even punished by the gem master to extend your study time. As Mei Yu said, Luvia and Rin Enbin's expression looked like it was the end of the world, unable to get up again. After Wu Ming left, Luvia and Rin Enbin had a dispute because of the class cards. In the end, even a helicopter was involved. Of course, the helicopter belonged to Luvia. Rin Enbin did not have the money to send a helicopter. Then the furious Rin Enbin chased after the helicopter that Luvia was on, and directly used some means to shoot down the helicopter, and took back 7 class cards from the unconscious Luvia. In the end, Rin Enbin called the British clock tower on the other side of the world, but was told that because the gem master could not show the spirit of cooperation, Rin Enbin and Luvia needed to study abroad for a year, and even the procedures were completed. As Rin Enbin crushed the phone that was hung up, angry and sorrowful cries filled the air. After that, Rin Enbin and Luvia became students of Suigyun Academy High School. By the way, because Rin Enbin's funds were depleted, and because he needed to use gems, there was no job that could provide a large amount of funds. As a last resort, Rin Enbin came to Luvia's house to be a maid. Then I'll leave first. Looking at the two who were extremely weak, Mei Yu felt that it was better to leave first. Standing at the door, Mei Yu was not in a hurry to find Ilya, but instead took out a card from her pocket. It was an extremely special golden class card. On it was a drawing of a dragon, and other than that, there were no words. Brother Wu Ming. Chapter 246. The card in Mei Yu's hand was the one that flew out of Shua Yu's residence after Wu Ming left. That night, the card flew to Mei Yu's bed in Luvia's house. While she was sleeping, Mei Yu discovered the card. For some reason, Mei Yu could sense that the card was Wu Ming's. Hence, Mei Yu had been carrying the card. Because there was no need to, only Sapphire, who had been following Mei Yu, knew of the card's existence. Mei Yu didn't even tell Luvia, Rin and Osaka, or Ilya. This could be considered Mei Yu's selfishness as a young girl. Putting away the card, Mei Yu went to Ilya's house across the street. Ever since Wu Ming left, Mei Yu often hung out with Ilya. It was not only because the two were friends who had fought together, it was also because Ilya was Mei Yu's first friend in this world. In short, the two had a very good relationship during this period of time. After greeting Sela and Ligerite, Mei Yu went upstairs to Ilya's room alone. Knock knock, Ilya, are you awake? The sound of knocking on the door was followed by Mayo's call. After waiting for a few seconds, Mayu opened Ilya's door. As expected, Ilya was still sleeping. Walking to Ilya's bedside, Mayu shook Ilya and called out softly. Ilya! Ilya! Wake up! We're on duty today. As if she heard someone calling her, Ilya opened her eyes in a daze. Did you sleep too much, Ilya? Mayu asked with concern. Ilya's confused eyes looked at Mayu. Then, Ilya smiled. Big brother. Long time no see. As compensation, let's have a morning kiss today. As she spoke, Ilya wrapped her arms around Mayu's neck and pouted her little mouth as she approached Mayu. Sigh. Mayu was a little flustered. She had never encountered such a situation before. For a moment, she did not react and was stunned in place. At this moment, Ilya also realized that the person she was hugging didn't seem to be Wuming, and she woke up. There was a moment of silence. Yo, Xiaofan. Ruby flew out of nowhere and said to Mayu's hair. At this moment, Sapphire also flew out of Mayu's hair and greeted her sister. Good morning, sister. Then, Ilya yelled and ran away from Mayu. Mayu, I thought you were Big Brother just now. That's not real. I only dreamt of Big Brother. I don't have any thoughts about Big Brother. Mayu didn't say anything and only shook her head when she saw the flustered Ilya, who was trying to explain herself but ended up babbling nonsense with a flushed face. It's all right. If it's Ilya, I don't mind. Ha! Ilya, who was a little confused, froze on the spot. By the way, Ilya and I are on duty today. Ilya, change your clothes first. I'll wait for you outside. With that, Mayu brought Sapphire out of the room and closed the door, leaving Ilya with a lingering look and Ruby with an infatuated blush. Shortly after, Ilya quickly put on her clothes and had breakfast. Then, she went to school with Mayu. At this moment, a limousine appeared beside Ilya and Mayu. The car window rolled down and Luvia and Rin Enbin's heads popped out. Mayu, Ilya, I have something to ask of you after school. Remember not to leave. I'll pick you up. With that, the limousine left without waiting for Mayu and Ilya to speak. Mayu and Ilya vaguely heard something like, we're going to be late again. It's all your fault. I really don't know when Sister Rin and Sister Luvia will be able to understand how to work together. Ilya sighed. I don't think the two of them can be together. Ruby ridiculed. Mayu fell into deep thought. Seeing Mayu like this, Ilya asked curiously. What's wrong, Mayu? Mayu reacted and shook her head. It's nothing. I'm just thinking about Brother Wuming. Speaking of this, Ilya instantly recalled the morning kiss incident in the morning. Her face turned red. Mayu, let's hurry up and leave. Otherwise, we'll be late. With that, Ilya pulled Mayu and started running. It's good to be young. Ruby ridiculed. Sister, saying this will only make you sound old. Lil Lon, I'm still young. In the afternoon, after school, Ilya and Mayu said goodbye to their friends and waited at the school gate. Phew, I wonder how Big Brother is doing now. Perhaps because she dreamed about Wuming in the morning, Ilya suddenly said. If it's Brother Wuming, he'll definitely be able to solve everything, Mayu said with some longing. That's right. After all, Big Brother is very strong, handsome, gentle, and reliable, Ilya said happily. Ilya, do you like Brother Wuming? Mayu looked at Ilya and suddenly asked. Like something? How is that possible? Mayu, you really like to joke. Ahaha. Ilya laughed awkwardly. Mayu looked at Ilya and didn't say anything. Ilya also lowered her head like a little girl whose secret was discovered by her good friend. Although she was just a little girl, she was just a little girl. At this moment, the limousine stopped beside Ilya and Mayu. The door opened, and a pair of hands pulled Ilya and Mayu into the limousine. Ilya, Mayu, I'm sorry for dragging you here. I'll have to trouble you now, Rin Enbin said apologetically. After that, Rin Enbin and Luvia told Ilya and Mayu about what happened. Because the clock tower called and said that the ley lines hadn't recovered yet, they didn't reject the possibility of blockages or even cards of other classes. That was why they needed Rin Enbin and the others to use the ruby and sapphire magic attire that was supplied with magic from a parallel world to inject magic power into the ley lines. In short, it's because the ley lines haven't recovered yet, so they need to inject magic power manually, right? Mei Yu asked. As expected of Mei Yu. You summed it up in one sentence, Luvia praised. It's great that there's no battle. Ilya had a dispirited expression. As expected, even if she went through special training and her strength increased significantly, with Ilya's personality, she still had a headache about battle. Soon, the limousine arrived at a mountain, Yuanzhong Mountain. After getting out of the limousine, the group advanced into the mountain. Soon, Ilya and Mei Yu, who had transformed into magical girls, followed Rin Enbin and Luvia to a large cavern. There's such a large cavern here. I didn't even know about it. Ilya looked at this place with interest. As someone who had lived in this city for as long as she could remember, Ilya was shocked. After all, there's a barrier here. Normal people wouldn't know about this place, Rin Enbin said. Ilya couldn't help but recall Rin Enbin and Luvia who had fallen into the bottomless swamp's trap. Then it's here. Rin Enbin walked to an empty space and stopped. Luvia and Rin Enbin placed a series of gems on the ground. Then, Rin Enbin took out the earthen gift needle from his back. This was a magic tool used to inject magic power into the ley lines. He inserted the earthen gift needle into the center of the magic array. Instantly, the earthen gift needle that looked like a withered branch started to grow like a tree. Ilya! Mei Yu! Rin Enbin and Luvia shouted. Ilya and Mei Yu looked at each other and nodded. Then, with the earthen gift needle as the center, they each raised the ruby and sapphire in their hands and began to inject magic power into it. And when the four worked together to inject magic power, the card on Mei Yu's body shone with golden light and swayed. In just a few seconds, the magic power infusion was complete. And at this moment, an earthquake occurred. Chapter 247. Not good, this is the magic backlash of the ley line. The magic power comparable to a magnitude of 10 earthquake began. The few people in the Yuzhong Mountains whole were affected by the magic backlash of the ley line. The ground shattered, and rocks fell from the open space. In an instant, Rin Enbin and Luvia were lifted up by a huge rock. Sister Rin! Sister Luvia! Ilya shouted. At this time, Mei Yu, who was standing next to Ilya, moved. I'll go save them, Ilya. Keep an escape route. Then, Mei Yu quickly jumped in the air, instantly arrived next to Rin Enbin and Luvia, and hugged them. At this time, several huge rocks fell, facing Mei Yu and the others. Rumble! The big hole collapsed, making a huge noise. Outside the big hole, a golden light flew out from the collapsed big hole. Ilya, Mei Yu, Rin Enbin, and Luvia fell to the ground. So rude, throwing a lady on the ground. Luvia covered her butt and said with a frown. It hurts, what's going on? Rin Enbin complained. Brother Wuming? Big brother. Mei Yu and Ilya shouted in surprise. A blond man wearing a white robe stood in front of Ilya and the others. It was Caster Wuming. Then, Mei Yu threw herself into Wuming's arms. Sorry, Mei Yu, I came back late. Wuming hugged Mei Yu and said apologetically. Mei Yu didn't say anything, she just silently shook her head. Then, Wuming looked at Ilya who wanted to throw herself at him. Are you afraid of me or what? Wuming said with a smile. Big brother. Hearing this, Ilya's eyes lit up, and she also threw herself into Wuming's arms. So, it's you, that magic backlash just now was also your doing? Rin Enbin narrowed his eyes and looked at Wuming. Wuming smiled helplessly. I did trigger a large amount of mana when I returned, but it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the blockage in the veins. Wuming was right. As long as there were no blockages in the earth vein, even if more mana was injected, the level of mana backlash would not occur. You're right. Rin Enosaka turned his head away. Out of sight, out of mind. Speaking of which, Wuming, why did you suddenly appear in the big hole? Luvia asked a question that had some substance to it. Wuming looked at Mei Yu with interest. Mei Yu lowered her head in shame. Wuming smiled and patted Mei Yu's head. Before I left this world, I left a mark on Mei Yu. As long as I return, I will definitely be by Mei Yu's side. Mei Yu raised her head and looked at Wuming in surprise. Wuming could only smile. Oh, I see, Luvia said. But I always felt that you were a perverted siscon. Placing a mark on your sister's body is unexpectedly disgusting. Rin Enbin narrowed his eyes at Wu Ming. Wu Ming didn't mind at all. After all, it was just a joke. After all, Rin Enbin and the others were already familiar with Wu Ming's personality. They weren't the kind of people who would flatter big shots, which was why they were able to act this way. That, I've been wanting to ask since just now. Big brother, who's behind you? Ilya raised her hand and pointed at the figure sitting on the ground behind Wu Ming like a primary school student asking a question. At this time, everyone realized that there was indeed a person sitting behind Wu Ming. However, because Wu Ming returned and Wu Ming's body was blocking them, no one noticed it. Sensing that he had been cold, the figure turned around and looked at the crowd with a confused expression. Everyone shouted in surprise. Especially Ilya's voice was the loudest. Because the figure sitting beside Wu Ming was exactly the same as Ilya. Except for her dark skin and different clothes, she was simply Ilya herself. As if she had reacted, Black Ilya looked at Wu Ming with a different kind of emotion, then got up and quickly fled before anyone could react. Wu Ming looked at the figure with some worry, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Shuoyu Mansion. The house that hadn't been lived in for 3 weeks was clean. Although Mei Yu had moved to Livia's house, whenever she was free, Mei Yu would always come back to clean up, so that Wu Ming could see a clean house when he came back. And Ilya, Rin Enbin, and Livia would also accompany Mei Yu to clean here. After coming to the living room and preparing tea, Wu Ming and the others sat on the still clean cushions. Thank you for your hard work, Mei Yu. Wu Ming said while patting Mei Yu's head. Wu Ming could naturally see that someone cleaned the Shuoyu mansion almost every few days, and it was a comprehensive cleaning. Thank you all for your hard work. Thank you for taking care of my sister. This is a token of gratitude from a brother. Wu Ming bowed to the group. The few who originally wanted to decline didn't say anything. Since Wu Ming thanked them as a big brother, it would be rude not to accept it. Hey, I've been taken care of by Mei Yu a lot. Ilya touched her face shyly. Being able to become friends with Mei Yu and learning and growing with Mei Yu is the one I want to thank the most. Wu Ming said to Ilya with a smile. Wu Ming had always believed that only people of the same generation could progress together. As an elder, Wu Ming could give Mei Yu a lot, but he couldn't give Mei Yu friendship. In addition, Wu Ming and Sapphire recognized Ilya and Mei Yu as their masters, which was why Wu Ming wanted to make Mei Yu and Ilya friends. Magical girls were one. This sentence wasn't a joke. It's not as serious as Big Brother makes it out to be. Although Mei Yu is a little shy in school, she still works hard to communicate with other students. I think Mei Yu is already working very hard. After hearing this, Wu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. After all, although Mei Yu went to school in the previous parallel world, she didn't make many friends because of her personality. Mei Yu's classmates basically only knew Mei Yu and didn't interact much with Mei Yu. This was also why Mei Yu was so happy to meet Erica Ainsworth, who wanted to be her friend. Then, let's discuss the problem of the other Ilya. Rin Enbin put on a pair of glasses that he dug out from somewhere. Yes, that's right. Why is there another me? At the mention of the other Ilya appeared serious. It couldn't be helped. No matter who it was, they would be like this when they had another person who looked exactly like them. Then let me explain, Wu Ming said seriously. Chapter 248. If I guessed correctly, the dark-skinned one who escaped just now is Ilya. Hey. Everyone cried out in surprise. But, Big Brother, if she is Ilya, then who am I? Ilya said anxiously. The others also looked at Wu Ming curiously. Calm down first. Ilya. Wu Ming touched Ilya's head. Of course, you are also Ilya, but Black Ilya is indeed Ilya. Then, Wu Ming looked around at them seriously. What I'm going to say next can be regarded as a secret. If you don't want to get involved, you can choose not to listen now. Then, Wu Ming looked at Ilya again. Of course, it's the same for Ilya. If you choose not to be involved, I will help you take care of everything. Hearing that, Ilya was silent. If possible, she really wanted to return to a peaceful life. But I am the manager of Winterwood City, the head of the Enosaka family, and Ilya was involved because of me. Of course, I, Rin and Osaka, have the obligation to understand and solve it. Young Lady Osaka said proudly. Who do you think I am? I am Luvia Sarinta Eiderfelt, the next head of the Eiderfelt family. How can I run away from the problem? Luvia said proudly. I will bear Ilya's burden with Big Brother, no matter when. Mayu said firmly. Everyone. Even Ilya now understood that everyone wasn't doing this for any other reason. They merely wanted to help Ilya. Ilya wiped the wet corners of her eyes, then looked at Wuming firmly. I've decided, Big Brother, I choose to face it. Ilya couldn't let go of these companions she met when she stepped into the magic world. Wuming nodded with satisfaction, although he had already guessed that this would be the result. Do you know about the Holy Grail War? Wuming said a word that puzzled Ilya. Is the Holy Grail War a war for the cup of Jesus? For Ilya, she only knew about the Holy Grail of Jesus. Although the Holy Grail you mentioned is also the Holy Grail, the Holy Grail War doesn't really mean that. It was true that the Holy Grail had appeared many times in history. Whether it was the Holy Grail found by King Arthur's knight Galahad, the Holy Grail in the First Sumer Dynasty's treasury of Gilgamesh, or the Holy Grail of Jesus, they were all Holy Grails, but the Holy Grail War refers to the war for the universal wishing machine that can grant all wishes, am I right? Rin Enbin said awkwardly. Wuming couldn't help but take a few more glances at Rin Enbin. It seems that Rin and Osaka is related to this as well. Wuming continued. Yes, in short, it's a ritual. The Holy Grail War was initiated by Yu San's Ho. It was originally a ritual for magicians to reach their roots, but in the end, it became a war to fulfill their wishes. Wuming didn't say what Yu San's Ho was and continued. The 7 magicians chosen by the Holy Grail fought with the servants they summoned until only 1 magician and 1 servant were left. Servant? Ilya was a little puzzled. Let's put it this way, you know that the class card seals the power of the heroic spirit, so you can understand that the servant is the incarnation of the heroic spirit. I see, the incarnation of the heroic spirit. Ilya nodded. And the Holy Grail War was held here, Winterwood City. In the city we live in now? Ilya couldn't believe it. Don't worry, Ilya, the Holy Grail War will never happen again. 10 years ago, the upcoming 4th Holy Grail War was stopped. Under the witness of the Clock Tower, the Holy Grail War ritual was cancelled by the Yu San's Ho. Ilya heaved a sigh of relief. Thinking about it, with the power of the class card, if there were really 7 heroic spirits clones, this city would definitely be plunged into misery and suffering. The Holy Grail War requires a Great Holy Grail and a Small Holy Grail. The Great Holy Grail has always existed, just in the Great Hollow of the Yuanzong Mountain, and the Small Holy Grail needs to be artificially created. Mayo's expression was a little gloomy when she said that. Wuming naturally noticed Mayo's expression, took Mayo's hand, and looked at Mayu with a smile. Mayu raised her head, looked at Wuming, and after a few seconds of silence, she also smiled. Then, Wuming looked at Ilya. Often, the Small Holy Grail is an artificially created human, that is, the androids, and the end of these androids is usually death. Death? For an ordinary elementary school student, talking about death was a bit too much. And the one who created the Small Holy Grail is one of the Yu San's Ho, named Einsberg. Of course, Ilya understood that the Einsberg that Wuming mentioned was referring to her surname. Ilya couldn't believe it. After all, Ilya always thought that she was an ordinary elementary school student. Although she had mysterious parents, although she had 2 nannies who looked similar to her mother, although she had a noble surname, Ilya seemed to understand something. Wait a minute, Wuming, this is a bit too much for Ilya. Rin and Osaka wanted to refute Wuming, but Wuming instantly cut him off. This is the path that Ilya chose herself, and to understand Black Ilya, you must know this first. Wuming said rather sternly. Humph. Rin and Osaka snorted a little unhappily. At this time, Ilya said with some fear. Big Brother means, I am the Holy Grail. Yes, Ilya, you are the Small Holy Grail, and Black Ilya is the sealed personality of the Small Holy Grail. Wuming's words were like a thunderbolt that shocked Ilya's heart. I've checked your body before. There was a seal placed on your body. If I'm not wrong, the seal in your body has already been undone. As he spoke, Wuming walked behind Ilya, put a hand on Ilya's body, and checked again. As expected, The seal that Wuming came into contact with had completely disappeared. Looking at Ilya, who was at a loss, Wuming smiled and knocked her head. It hurts. Big brother, what are you doing? Ilya looked at Wuming with tears in her eyes. I say, why are you so conflicted? Even if the sky collapses, there are tall people to hold it up. I am still here. Once it's over, there is still me. Wuming's words of once it's over, there is still me struck a chord in Ilya's heart. Ilya was excited and turned around to hug Wuming. Big brother, thank you. Wuming smiled as he hugged Ilya, forming an exceptionally warm scene. On the other hand, Mei Yu was a little upset when she saw this scene, but Mei Yu did not say anything. At the same time, Wuming also discovered something. By the way, Ilya, when I checked just now, I found that 2/3 of your magic circuit has disappeared. Ha! Chapter 249. Rin and Osaka and Luvia were in disbelief. After all, magic circuits were the foundation of a magician. Moreover, it was an innate foundation that couldn't be improved. It was like a person who was born with a governor and conception meridians, but for some reason, one of the meridians disappeared. The consequence was a great decrease in strength. Magic circuits? What's that? I don't feel anything, Ilya said in a daze. It's an invisible organ. It's like a channel that releases and stores magic power. The quality and quantity of magic circuits represent a magician's potential. After all, magicians with high-quality magic circuits and a large number of them would definitely be more powerful than magicians with low-quality magic circuits and a small number of them using normal means. The reason why it was a normal method was because many magician criminals had flaws in their magic circuits. Therefore, they used opportunistic methods to make themselves stronger than other magicians with high-quality magic circuits. Thus, they embarked on the path of crime. Moreover, there were also methods to transplant magic circuits. However, these methods were extremely rare or extremely difficult to achieve. Moreover, even if the magic circuits of others were successfully transplanted, there was no guarantee that there wouldn't be rejection. This was just like transplanting other people's organs. The body would reject the transplanted organs. If one was unlucky, they might die instantly after the magic circuits were transplanted. Rin and Osaka, who didn't believe in heresy, also walked over and grabbed Ilya's hand. He circulated his magic power and examined it. It's a lie. 2/3 of the magic circuits really disappeared. However, Ilya has always been by our side. She didn't lose her memory or anything else. How could Ilya's magic circuits disappear for no reason? Luvia analyzed. In response, Wuming brought up another topic. Luvia and Rin, take out your class cards and let me see. Although they didn't know why they had to look at their class cards, Luvia and Rin and Osaka still obediently took out their class cards. However, there were only 6 class cards on the table. What's going on? Archer disappeared. Rin and Osaka scratched his ears and cheeks as he searched for the missing class cards and said in a panic. Wuming, on the other hand, revealed an expression of truth. Based on our previous analysis, it seems that Black Ilya is indeed Ilya. However, everyone was dumbfounded. Wuming then picked up the 6 rank cards on the table. Let's take a look at these grade cards first. In the Holy Grail War, the ranks of the 7 servants included these 6 rank cards. Saber, swordsman, with the highest attributes, lancer, lancer, with the most agile, rider, rider, with a mount, caster, magician, with superb magic, assassin, assassin, with the ability to hide oneself, and berserker, berserker, with the ability to sacrifice reason to increase one's attributes. Wuming picked up the 6 class cards and explained in detail. The only thing missing is an archer with a powerful projectile or even a powerful noble phantasm. Recalling that Black Ilya was wearing something similar to a Mia, Mei Yu understood. Brother Wuming, do you mean that Black Ilya is the materialization of the Archer class card? Wuming shook his head. To be precise, the sealed Ilya came out through the Archer class card. Everyone suddenly realized. That's all for today. I need to investigate some information so that I can fully understand Black Ilya's situation. With that said, Wuming touched Ilya's head. And you, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you're the little Holy Grail. Ilya is Ilya, and this won't change. We won't change our feelings for you because of your identity. That's right, Ilya. In my eyes, you're still that reckless little brat. This won't change. Rin and Osaka said proudly. If possible, I really hope that I can leave a good impression in your heart. Ilya complained helplessly. Everyone laughed. At the same time, Wu Ming looked at Mei Yu. Wu Ming's lips moved slightly as if he was mouthing something. Mei Yu, who was extremely knowledgeable, naturally understood Wu Ming's lips. Wu Ming said, "You too, my little sister Mei Yu." At this moment, the different feelings that gathered in Mei Yu's heart because Ilya was hugging Wu Ming had disappeared. Brother Wu Ming. Mei Yu clenched her hands and placed them in front of her chest. She lowered her head and whispered in a voice that no one else could hear. Hey, by the way, Ilya, how much longer are you going to hug Wu Ming? You've hugged him enough. At this moment Ruby, who had been silent all this while, suddenly flew to Ilya's side and teased her. Wah! Only then did Ilya realize that she was still hugging Wu Ming. Big brother, I didn't do it on purpose. I don't have any other thoughts. Don't misunderstand, Ilya said with a red face. Aw, you're not frank enough. Big brother from before was like this, and now big brother is like this as well. Shut up. Ilya's eyes were filled with tears. She grabbed Ruby and covered her with both hands. Wu Ming shook his head helplessly. Of course, he could see Ilya's feelings for him. However, Wu Ming only treated it as a feeling of dependence. He was just an elementary school student. How would he know about love? Wu Ming looked outside the window. It was almost dark. Therefore, Wu Ming spoke. Since it's already so late, why don't you stay for a meal? I've been away for so long. I don't know if your tastes have changed. No. We like everything you cook. Hurry up and go. Treat it as a welcome banquet for you, Wu Ming. This was the down-and-out young lady, Rin Tozaka, who was used to freeloading. Speaking of which, it was a first for the main character to personally cook for a welcome banquet. Although it's a little hard to say, your culinary skills are indeed not bad. Luvia Sarinta Eiderfelt, will make do with your meal for today. This was the real young lady, Luvia, who was drooling. Really? I'm really looking forward to Big Brother's cooking. This was Ilya, who had an expectant expression. Stare. This was Mei Yu, who didn't say anything and only looked at Wu Ming. Do you still want to eat omelette rice, Mei Yu? Wu Ming smiled and patted Mei Yu's head. Yeah. Mei Yu nodded. All right. Today, I'll show off my cooking skills and make you a sumptuous dinner. As for the ingredients, Wu Ming indicated that the transportation gate could still be used. Just like that, the Shua Yu's family held a welcoming banquet with the person being welcomed as the chef. Chapter 250. The next morning, Wu Ming woke up the rest of them who were still sleeping. Because they had too much fun yesterday, they ended up staying at the Shuasuki residence. My head hurts. Did I bump into something last night? Rin and Osaka held his aching head and walked out of the guest room unsteadily. Damn it. I must have stayed with Rin and Osaka for too long. Is this bad luck? Luvia also held her aching head and walked out of the guest room next to Rin and Osaka's. Ilya and Mei Yu were already sitting at the dining table and enjoying the breakfast that Wu Ming prepared with love. Yes, a brother's love for his sister. You two hurry up and wash up. It's almost time for class. The two instantly rushed into the bathroom. Damn it. Blonde girl, do you need to wash up? Just pull your hair a few times and you'll be fine. You're the one. You're just a wild monkey. You don't need to dress up. Then, there was another round of chaos. Ilya and Mei Yu sat opposite each other. Ilya yawned and was lacking sleep. Even Mei Yu, who had always been energetic, was now feeling tired. Ruby and Sapphire floated beside them and chatted leisurely with Ilya and Mei Yu. I told you to sleep early. Now you know you're wrong. Wu Ming teased. Last night, they started having fun when they were eating. Because they had too much fun, by the time they finished eating, they realized that it was already very late. Left with no choice, Wu Ming called Sila from Ilya's family and helped Ilya apply for leave. Just like that, Ilya once again stayed at the Shuasuki residence. As for Luvia and Rin and Osaka, because it was already late, they decided to stay. It can't be helped. Big brother hasn't come back for so long. Everyone misses you. Ilya ate her breakfast and her listless face instantly became extremely beautiful. Wuming smiled bitterly and shook his head. Then, Wuming noticed Meiyo's resentful eyes. In fact, Meiyu wanted to sleep with Wuming last night because Ilya said that she could sleep with Meiyu. In the end, Meiyu couldn't resist the temptation and fell asleep with Ilya. Speaking of which, when did the relationship between the two of you become so good that you even sleep together? Wuming was a little puzzled. It's all right. Actually, Meiyu is very popular in school right now. She's much better than when she first transferred here. Ilya rubbed her head and smiled. After all, although Meiyu had begun to take the initiative to communicate with others, due to the personality that she had cultivated from the past and the temperament of an ice beauty, there were not many people who could communicate with Meiyu. You don't have to force yourself, Meiyu. You're already doing very well now. Although Wuming wasn't by Wuming's side during this period of time, Wuming received information about Meiyu through the class card with the dragon engraved on it. This was also related to the fact that Meiyu had been carrying it with her. You don't need to communicate with others? I got it, Brother Wuming. It seems that Meiyu misunderstood something. Wuming hurriedly said. Actually, it's better for you to communicate with others more. After all, this is a rare school life that even I haven't experienced. By the way, Big Brother is also a heroic spirit, right? What's Big Brother's real name? Ilya asked curiously. Meiyu, who was sitting next to Wuming, was also a little curious. Although Meiyu knew Wuming's real name yesterday, she didn't have time to check the information. Meiyu only knew that Wuming was her brother, and she never paid attention to Wuming's previous story. It could be said that Meiyu didn't ask, and Wuming didn't say anything. If it's the current caster magician class, my real name should be Hyunryong. Wuming thought for a while and answered Ilya's doubts. Ha! Hyunryong, is that a real name? I really haven't heard of anyone named Hyunryong in legend. Ilya smiled a little awkwardly. After all, she didn't know his name, so she was a little embarrassed. I can't blame you for this, it's just that Sumer legend is not very famous in the world. After washing up, Rin Tozaka, who was dressed in formal clothes, sat next to Ilya and explained. However, half of Rin Tozaka's face was a little swollen. Fortunately, Ilya didn't notice it and asked. Sumer legend? Is Big Brother from Sumer legend? The great sage who taught the ancient king, who has the closest relationship with Tiamat, the creator of Mesopotamia, and the most mysterious legendary dragon. Even the world's oldest epic, the Epic of Gilgamesh, has very little information about him. Luvia also finished washing up and sat next to Meiyu. However, the side of Luvia's face was also a little swollen. Big Brother is so powerful. Ilya looked at Wuming with some surprise. Meiyu, on the other hand, had heard the news from Luvia yesterday, so she wasn't too shocked. Rin Tozaka and Luvia looked at each other, and their gazes collided as if they were bursting with intense electric sparks. Now, Ilya and Mio were sitting across from each other at the dining table. Rin Enbin and Luvia were sitting on either side of Ilya and Mio, looking at each other. Wuming sat on the other side of Meiyu. All right, if you don't hurry up, you're really going to be late. Then, Rin Tozaka and Luvia stopped looking at each other and hurriedly ate the breakfast that Wuming prepared. Then we'll be leaving first. Ilya and Meiyu, who had finished eating, said. It's rare that I'm free today. Why don't I go visit you? Wuming smiled at Ilya and Meiyu. Then, Meiyo's smile gradually widened, and she nodded heavily. Okay. About a few minutes later, a golden sports car appeared at the entrance of Sui-Gun Garden Academy's elementary school. Although because of Wuming's superb skills, there was still a while before Ilya and Meiyo's class. Ilya looked at Wuming with some embarrassment, then said. Big Brother, isn't this a bit too ostentatious? After all, Wuming's car was made by Wuming using Create Green item. Not only was its performance comparable to a high-level magic dress, but its appearance was also quite expensive. Once Ilya and Meiyu got out of the car, it would definitely cause a commotion. On the contrary, Meiyu was used to it. After all, Wuming was not short of money. It could be said that since Wuming adopted Meiyu, Meiyu had been living like a young lady. Although Wuming and Meiyu often walked here in the past, that was just because Wuming wanted to give Meiyu a sense of ordinary life. As long as she was with Wuming, no matter what Meiyu did, she would feel happy. However, it was best to avoid unnecessary commotion. Then Wuming stretched out a hand, and several Lune runes fell on the two of them. Okay, I'll now apply the concealment rune on you. It will only last for a few minutes. If you get out of the car now, others will only treat you as passers-by, and it won't cause a commotion. You're a great help, big brother. After thanking him, Ilya pulled Meiyu and ran into the school. Wuming still remembered Meiyu's confused face at the end, and he couldn't help but laugh. At this time, Wuming noticed a magical power. Wuming looked at the top of a telephone pole, and a dark-skinned girl wearing a rather revealing black and red trench coat stood there. Ilya! Chapter 251. Black Ilya, who was standing on the telephone pole, seemed to have noticed Wuming looking at her. She immediately bent down and jumped away. Wuming parked the car in a nearby parking lot and got out. Wuming went directly to the roof of a building in the Panicle Garden Academy's elementary school. Wuming had a feeling that Black Ilya must have come for Ilya. Sure enough, Wuming discovered Black Ilya hiding on the roof of the building opposite Ilya's. Wuming gathered mana in his eyes and looked at Black Ilya. Black Ilya was looking at Ilya, who was in the middle of class. Wuming could clearly see a trace of envy and unwillingness in Black Ilya's eyes. Wuming exerted strength in his legs and jumped behind Black Ilya. Black Ilya quickly turned around vigilantly. When she saw that it was Wuming, her expression relaxed. What? It's Big Brother, Black Ilya said in a frivolous tone. Now, Wuming was even more certain that Black Ilya was Ilya. Although her tone was frivolous, Wuming couldn't be wrong about the feeling that Black Ilya gave him. You're Ilya, right? Wuming asked. As expected of my big brother. You can see my nature at a glance. That's right, I'm Ilya, Black Ilya said happily. Wuming could see that this Ilya in front of him also had special feelings for him. So, Wuming stretched out a hand. Then, Ilya, can you talk to me? However, Black Ilya chose to reject her beloved big brother. Not now, big brother. Wait until Ilya gets rid of the other Ilya. That way, Ilya will be able to happily stay by big brother's side. Black Ilya said something that Wuming didn't understand. Then, Black Ilya suddenly jumped away and left. Wuming watched this scene quietly. He didn't stop Black Ilya from leaving, nor did he say anything. He just thought. After a while, Wuming used teleportation portal to arrive at Zelika's room. Wuming's goal was to learn all the information about the sealed Fourth Holy Grail War. After communicating with Zelika again, Wuming obtained the information. Wuming returned to the empty Shuayu residence. After Wuming sent Meiyu and Ilya to school, Rin and Livia also went to school. Wuming had said that he would try to get in touch with the other Ilya and told Rin Tasaka and the others not to worry about it and to focus on going to school. That was why Rin Tasaka and Livia, who were supposed to take a leave of absence, went to school. Wuming sat on the sofa with a magic book in his hand. Zelik seemed to have guessed that Wuming would come back, so he prepared this magic book that recorded all the information in advance and handed it to Wuming when Wuming came. Turning the spellbook around, Wuming pondered over what Black Illyria had told him. Wuming didn't think that Black Ilya was joking when she said, "Get rid of Ilya." However, Black Ilya seemed to want to replace Ilya, so she definitely wouldn't do it in public. Ilya was currently in class, so Wuming believed that Black Ilya wouldn't do it. Wuming spent almost half a day memorizing all the information in the book. "Collis, have you recorded all this?" Wuming asked. "Yes, master. Everything has been recorded." A golden dragon horn accessory appeared on Wuming's head. Then, Wuming's hand that was holding the magic book instantly ignited with white flames. The magic book that recorded the information about the sealed Fourth Holy Grail War was burned by Wuming just like that. If the magicians saw this, they would be devastated. After all, every magic book was a precious existence. Even this magic book that could only record things was the same. Then, Wuming got up and walked out of the house. Near the Cluster Garden Academy's primary school. Just as Wuming thought, Black Ilya didn't do anything to Ilya in public. At this moment, Black Ilya was sitting on a wall, swinging her legs in boredom, thinking about something. Wuming walked over. More importantly, Wuming was holding 2 ice creams in his hand. "Isn't this Ilya? What a coincidence. Do you want an ice cream?" Wuming looked at Black Ilya with a smile. "Big brother, are you here to stop me?" I said that after I get rid of Elia, I'll listen to you obediently. Black Elia looked at Wu Ming with a vigilant smile. I didn't say I was going to stop you. I just happened to run into you, and I happened to buy an extra ice cream, so I wanted to invite you to eat it with me. Besides, you can't do anything right now, right? Why don't you accept my invitation? Wu Ming looked at Black Elia with the same kind expression as before. Seeing that Big Brother is so sincere, I'll accept the invitation. After thinking for a while, Black Elia jumped off the wall and came to Wu Ming's side with a smile. Let's go sit in the park, Wu Ming suggested. Black Elia naturally nodded. Wu Ming and Black Elia sat down on the chairs in the nearby park. Because it wasn't the weekend, the students basically had to go to class and work. Hence, the small park was empty. Here, this is strawberry flavored. Wu Ming put the pink ice cream in his hand in front of Black Elia. Wu Ming knew Elia very well. She often came to freeload on his food. She usually liked strawberry-flavored ice cream. Hence, Wu Ming guessed that Black Elia also liked strawberry-flavored ice cream. You're so considerate, Big Brother. You even know what kind of ice cream I like to eat. You don't have any thoughts about me, do you? Black Elia took off her clothes slightly and pretended to be seductive as she spoke. Smack! It hurts. Black Elia hugged her little head that Wu Ming had hit with his karate chop. Tears welled up in the corners of her eyes. Wu Ming caught the strawberry-flavored ice cream that was thrown up because he wanted to hit Black Elia. Then, he put it in front of Black Elia again. You're just an elementary school student. Don't pretend to be seductive in front of me. You're still 10 years away from that body of yours. Wu Ming teased. Humph. I want Big Brother to feed me. Hearing Wu Ming's words, Black Elia threw a tantrum. Wu Ming smiled helplessly, then put the ice cream in front of Black Elia's mouth. Ah! Black Elia took a big bite of the ice cream, as if the ice cream was Wu Ming. Speaking of which, I can't call you Elia. It's easy to confuse you with the other Elia. How about I call you Black Elia? After all, Black Elia's skin was much darker than Elia's. Elia's skin was snow white, while Black Elia's skin was a healthy dark color. Big Brother is so annoying. Isn't Black Elia like a puppy? Black Elia said unhappily. Then, Black Elia's eyes lit up and she looked at Wu Ming with a smile. I've thought about it. My name will be Chloe. Chloe? Yes, Chloe von Erzberen. Chapter 252. Wu Ming looked at Chloe with a different gaze. Names were especially important things. Whether it was the true name of a follower, a word spirit based on a name, or a technique to curse others, a name was indispensable. Blackie gave herself a name, which meant that she didn't want to become Ilya or a substitute for Ilya. Instead, she wanted to become a person with a true meaning of existence. Well, but I can also specially allow Big Brother to call me Blackie. Blackie smiled and then took another bite of ice cream, revealing a happy expression. It's delicious. So Ilya wasn't wrong. Eating ice cream is this kind of enjoyment. Blackie couldn't taste the deliciousness before? Wu Ming asked with some heartache. If that was the case, then it was indeed a bit too much for Blackie. Hee, as expected, Big Brother already knows about me. Now, there's a secret between Big Brother and me that even Ilya doesn't have. Blackie said with a grin. Wu Ming released his hand that was feeding Blackie the ice cream. The ice cream floated in the air as though a floating magic spell was cast. Then, Wu Ming placed his hand on Blackie's head and gently stroked it. It's been hard on you, Blackie. Wu Ming, who already knew everything, was qualified to say this. Then, will Big Brother who knows everything stop me? Blackie looked at Wu Ming's eyes. Of course. Wu Ming said without hesitation. Then, Big Brother is my enemy. Xiao He looked at Wu Ming firmly and said in a tone that would not allow him to go back on his words. Now, the atmosphere became a bit silent. However, grumble, grumble, grumble. The sound of a hungry stomach sounded and the silent atmosphere was broken. At this moment, Blackie and Wu Ming were both stunned. Wu Ming looked at Blackie's stomach with a polite smile and said, You probably haven't eaten since yesterday. Although Blackie was similar to a follower of a job class card, it was still half of Ilya's body. It was just relying on the Archer job class card, so it naturally needed to eat. But after all, Little Black was all alone. Not to mention a place to stay, he didn't even have money. How was he going to eat? Blackie nodded. After all, I don't have money, and I don't have a place to stay. Last night, I even spent it on the park bench that you were sitting on. Xiaofan said in a lonely voice. It's my fault. You didn't have to run away yesterday. I wouldn't have done anything to you. It's my fault for not stopping you. Wuming said as he let go of the ice cream in his other hand. The ice cream floated in the air like the previous ice cream. Then, Wuming gently patted Wuming's head. Let's go. I'll make it up to you today. You can eat whatever you want. Really? Big brother is the best. Xiaofan happily jumped into Wuming's arms. Wuming patted Xiaohe's head and was even more determined to let Xiaohe live a peaceful life. In the next half a day, Wuming took Xiaohe to eat almost all the famous food in Winterwood City. Then, Wuming took Xiaohe to the amusement park and had a good time. As for Xiaohe's clothes, Xiaohe easily used magic to project his clothes into home clothes. When it was almost late, Wuming took Xiaohe back to Shua Yu's house. Are you happy today, Xiaohe? Wuming held Xiaohe's hand and smiled gently. Yes, I'm really happy with Big Brother. At this time, Xiaohe didn't look like the person who threatened to kill her. Then, I'll make you a delicious dinner when we get home. Wuming tightly held Xiaohe's hand. Big Brother brought me home to stop me from getting rid of Ilya? Big Brother is really cunning. He actually set a trap for me here. Xiaohe felt that she couldn't pull her hand away and said gloomily. The two who were originally walking stopped. To be precise, it was Xiaohe who stopped. Wuming also stopped. Xiaohe, I'm not stopping you. I'm protecting you. Wuming turned around and squatted down, looking at the unhappy Xiaohe and said, even if you took away 2/3 of Ilya's magic circuit and greatly reduced her strength, you still can't underestimate her. After all, Ilya has the help of Mei Yu, Rin Enbin, and Luvia. Humph. Trifling magical girls, as long as I snatch their stellar magic staff, they will be completely useless. Xiaohe said, somewhat unconvinced. As for those two idiots, I don't think they can pose any threat to me. Looking at Xiaohe, who was like a proud little black cat, Wuming smiled and shook his head. You can't underestimate them. No matter what, they are also experienced magicians. Magicians who can survive in the magic world can't be underestimated, including the somewhat silly-looking Rin Enbin and Luvia. Although they are sometimes unreliable, if you underestimate them, you will suffer a big loss. After all, the fact that the two idiots could survive in the magic world can be said to be a miracle in itself. Cough cough. Then I really have to thank Big Brother for reminding me. After saying that, Xiaohe instantly disappeared in front of Wuming. Space teleportation? Wuming's eyes widened. The disappeared Xiaohe appeared on a wall near Wuming. How did you do it? I don't remember that, Archer, being able to teleport. Wuming looked at the proud Xiaohe and asked curiously. Wuming wanted to leave Big Brother, so I was able to do this. Xiaohe's words made Wuming a little concerned. Could it be Xiaohe's original characteristic? Wuming thought in his heart. I didn't expect Xiaohe to be able to do this. It's really impressive. Wuming pretended to be helpless and said, Big Brother, you must be planning something, I won't be fooled again. After saying that, Xiaohe was about to leave. But, clatter. The sound of chains came from all around Xiaohe. The moment Xiaohe was about to turn around, Xiaohe was tied up. Big Brother, do you think this can stop me? Xiaohe said with a smile, then began to gather magical power to use space teleportation. But, did you find that you can't use your magical power, Xiaohe? Wuming said with a slight smile. Damn it! Big Brother, you're bullying me. Xiaohe resisted. It couldn't be helped, who asked Enkidu to have evolved to the effect of sealing magical power. Xiaohe, who had the skill mind's eye, pseudo, naturally noticed the incoming chains. Relying on his space teleportation, Xiaohe didn't teleport away, but accepted the binding of Enkidu. In the end, Xiaohe didn't know that Enkidu could seal magical power, so Xiaohe was once again caught by Wuming. Just accept your fate, Wuming said with a smile, then carried Xiaohe, who was bound by Enkidu, on his shoulder. Big brother is a bad guy. Chapter 253. Suki Residence. Ilya and the others came here after school because they received news from Wuming. Wuming and Little Black sat in the main seats while Ilya, Meiyu, Rin Enbin, and Luvia sat around Wuming and Little Black, looking at Little Black as if they were looking at a monkey. At this moment, Little Black and Wuming were sitting together with a chain on their wrists. After all, Heavenlock, Enkidu, evolved from Enkidu's soul coiling around Wuming's arm. Naturally, it started from Wuming's arm. And Wuming used Heavenlock, Enkidu, to bind Little Black, so it was inevitable that the two of them would be bound together like in the picture. Taking a closer look, you really look exactly the same as Ilya. Rin Enbin poked Little Black's cheeks and said curiously, "I'm not a rare animal. Don't touch me like this," Little Black said unhappily. After all, she was forcefully kidnapped by Wuming. Of course, she would be unhappy. Apart from the color and tone, you are indeed exactly the same as Ilya, Luvia added. Come to think of it, I feel a little awkward looking at myself, Ilya said weakly. Are you all right, Ilya? Meiyu sniffed worriedly. During the day, Ilya's mind wandered more than once and was punished by the teacher. Thinking about it, it was actually quite simple. Ignoring the sudden appearance of Blackie's doppelganger, Ilya didn't have a good night's sleep after Wu Ming told her about the Ahrensberg family. Anyone would be concerned about such a situation. It would be a lie to say that I'm fine. I really miss the ordinary life of the past. At this moment, Little Black was a bit unhappy after hearing Ilya's words. In an instant, Little Black hugged Wuming's arm and kept rubbing against it. Aha, big brother, I don't have enough mana. Let's replenish it. Replenish mana? Rin Enbin and Luvia exclaimed. Ilya and Mayo's faces instantly turned red. After being told the meaning of mana replenishment, they became very shy. If Xiao Hei is really like a class card, then it really needs to be replenished. After all, the position of the class card is basically the position of the spiritual pulse. With the supply of mana from the spiritual pulse, the servant of the class card incarnation doesn't have to worry about the consumption of mana. Luvia analyzed. No, I can't. I can't accept using my face to replenish my mana with Big Brother, Ilya said with a tone that sounded like she was about to cry. I don't think it's a good idea either, Meiyu said in the smallest voice she had ever used since Wuming adopted Meiyu. Wuming knocked on Little Hei's head. Heavenlock, Enkidu, has sealed away all of your remaining mana. You now have enough mana to support it. Humph. Little Black became even more unhappy. This time, he turned his head especially hard. Don't let me find a chance, or I will definitely kill you, Ilya, Little Black said fiercely. However, Ilya was somewhat disappointed and lowered her head. Ilya, who knew a lot of things, could almost understand the reason why Little Black wanted to kill her. Little Black was probably the personality of the Little Holy Grail. This was what Ilya thought. Wuming touched Ilya's head to cheer her up, and then began to explain the complete story about Little Black. 10 years ago, in order to let their daughter grow up like an ordinary person, Ilya's parents sealed away the memories and abilities of the next Little Holy Grail. As an artificially created Little Holy Grail, Ilya had been instilled with all of the knowledge about the Holy Grail War by the House of Einstein barons since birth. After the Holy Grail War was sealed away forever, in order to let their daughter grow up healthily, Ilya's parents sealed away this portion of memories and abilities in Ilya's body. In the past 10 years, a new personality was successfully born. This personality absorbed the sealed memories and knowledge and watched Ilya's daily life from the perspective of a bystander. And because Ilya came into contact with magic, this seal began to weaken. It was only when Ilya received the backlash of the mana from the ley line and the mana fluctuations caused by Wuming's return that this seal was completely broken. Simply put, Little Black is case Ilya, right? Rin and Osaka pulled out a pair of glasses out of nowhere and put them on as he spoke with a serious expression. Although I don't want to admit this, it's the truth, Wuming said helplessly. It's just that this case automatically restarted during the process of being abandoned. That's what it means, Luvia added. And the reason why Little Black wants to kill Ilya is to replace her and live an ordinary life? Meiyu asked. Wuming shook his head. Maybe, it's just a simple imbalance in her heart. Hearing this, Little Black lowered her head. Ming touched Little Black's head helplessly and began to speak. You're so negative already? This isn't the style of a big brother's little sister. Ming teased Little Black half-jokingly. Hey, Little Black, do you know why I didn't hesitate to choose to stop your plan to kill Ilya? I don't know, and I don't want to know. In any case, I can't escape anymore. You can do whatever you want with me. Little Black said in despair. In response, Ming waved his hand and stopped the few who wanted to say something. You're wrong if you think that way. Little Black, feel it now. I've already removed the Heaven Lock, Enkidu's restriction on mana. You can now use mana. Hearing Ming's words, Little Black operated the magic circuit and found that she could really use mana. Big brother, you're so confident in me? Aren't you afraid that I'll find an opportunity to assassinate Ilya after escaping? When she said the 3 words Ilya, Little Black pretended to glare fiercely at Ilya. But even so, Little Black had no intention of using space teleportation to escape. Listen to me, Little Black. Ming removed the Heaven Lock, Enkidu, from Little Black. I stopped you from killing Ilya because she's my younger sister, so I have to protect her. But at the same time, as Ilya's Little Black, you're also my younger sister. Thus I have to save you. Ming looked at Little Black with a firm gaze. Ming was also moved by Little Black's seriousness. At this time, Ilya also opened her mouth. I'm really sorry, Little Black. Ilya sat down on the ground and faced Little Black. I know about the House of Einstein Barons. Although I don't know how long you've been in my body and I don't know about the sufferings you've experienced, you still suffered because of me. No matter what, I have to bear a certain amount of responsibility. It could only be said that the girl who had experienced hardships had finally matured a little. Ming looked at Ilya with gratification. The emotions in Little Black's eyes became even more obvious. After all, as Ilya's half-body, Little Black's character and moral character definitely wouldn't be bad. How about it, Little Black? Think about it. Ming looked at Little Black with a smile. Little Black fell into contemplation. Chapter 254. Ilya raised her head and looked at Blackie. After a moment, Blackie spoke. Then let me ask you a question, Ilya. What question? Ilya swallowed her saliva and asked nervously. What is your current wish? Blackie looked at Ilya with a serious expression. My current wish is probably to return to my previous life. I guess. Ilya was vexed as she pondered deeply before giving her answer. Ming wasn't surprised when he heard this answer. After all, Ilya was just an ordinary primary school student. She was suddenly drawn into the life of a magician, and this caused her to be exhausted. Just like how we would usually think, how good would it be if I didn't do that thing? But hearing Ilya's answer, Blackie lowered his head gloomily. As expected, we can't coexist. In an instant, a large amount of magic power erupted from Blackie's body. What? Ilya said in a panic. Calm down, Blackie. Rin Enbin, who could only use his hand to shield his eyes due to Blackie's super-high magic power eruption, advised. Luvia and Meiyu were the same. In fact, Meiyu showed signs of retreating, let alone Ilya, who was just an ordinary person not long ago. Blackie, calm down. Ming placed his hand on Blackie's shoulder. It had to be said that Ming, who was the closest to Blackie, wasn't affected at all. Although he was still angry, Blackie didn't want to disappoint his big brother's trust in him, so he tried his best to retract his magic power. Ming believed that Blackie wouldn't casually use his magic power to deal with Ilya, so he removed Enkidu. Blackie didn't want to disappoint Ming. Humph. Blackie shifted his position angrily and leaned closer to Ming. At the same time, he turned his head to the side and stopped looking at Ilya. Ming smiled and patted Blackie's head, indicating that Blackie didn't let him down. Blackie puffed out his chest proudly. Then, Ming looked at Ilya. Ilya, although I know that you didn't mean to say what you just said, do you know what it means? Looking at the serious Ming, Ilya didn't know what to do. You want to return to your previous life because you realize that the world of magicians is abnormally chaotic. But this also means that you want to deny our relationship because you only knew us after entering the world of magicians. To Xiao Hei, you are denying her existence. Rin Enbin and Luvia nodded in agreement with Ming's words. Only Mei Yu didn't express anything, quietly listening to Wu Ming's speech. Wu Ming's words stunned Ilya, but she immediately reacted. No. No, big brother, Sister Mei Yu Lin, Sister Livia, I didn't mean that. Ilya looked as if she was about to cry and looked at Xiaofan pleadingly. I'm sorry, Xiaofan, that's what I meant. Then, Ilya really started crying. I know that I'm very clumsy. I like to sleep in the morning and often can't get up. I'm also not proficient in cooking and often act rashly. Most of the time I'm not frank. Ilya practically revealed all of her shortcomings. But, I really don't mean to deny you. So please stay. I'll do my best to live with you. Please. In the end, Ilya directly bowed 90 degrees and faced Xiaofan. After all, you can't expect a primary school student to think so much. Ilya was purely reminiscing about the past and didn't mean to deny Wu Ming and the others, nor did she mean to deny Xiaofan. Wu Ming helped Ilya up, wiped her tears, and looked at Ilya with some heartache. All right, Ilya, we're not saying that you've made a mistake or anything. I just want you to understand that even though there are many times in life where you wish to return to the past or start over due to regret or other reasons, in this life that you've already lived and started, there are still many benefits that outweigh the disadvantages. You've met Lin, Livia, Mei Yu, and me. Even the sealed Xiaofan has obtained freedom. At that point, Wu Ming turned to look at Xiaofan, who was looking at Ilya with some worry. Xiaofan, who was discovered, instantly blushed and turned her head away again. Wu Ming smiled and continued to speak to Ilya. During this period of time, you've indeed encountered many dangers, some of which even threatened your life. But, the gains during this period of time aren't something that others can give you. In the end, Wu Ming cupped Ilya's beautiful face and looked at her slightly swollen eyes. Wu Ming said an extremely important sentence. This is the treasure of a lifetime. You have to remember to cherish it. I understand, big brother. I won't say such words again. I will cherish it. Seeing that Ilya had stopped crying, Wu Ming turned to Xiaofan. So, Xiaofan, what do you think? Facing such a situation, Xiaofan couldn't say anything. Just like that, Wu Ming specially prepared a sumptuous dinner for Xiaofan. This time, everyone didn't play until the middle of the night like last time, but I want to live with big brother. Xiaofan hugged Wu Ming's arm with a smile, unwilling to let go. Wait. Girls can't be so unreserved. Hurry up and let go of me. Ilya held Xiaofan's hand with a slightly red face and a rather embarrassed and angry expression. Ah, Ilya, you're too much. I can't live in Ilya's house. Don't tell me Ilya wants me to sleep on a park bench? That's too much, Ilya. Xiaofan's words stunned Ilya. Fortunately, Ilya was quick-witted and quickly spoke. Then you can also live in big sister Livia's house. Why must you live in big brother's house? Ilya said with embarrassment and anger. It's fine if it's me. Livia expressed that she didn't care. But I need to replenish my mana. Livia's mana isn't enough for me. I'm an existence that relies on the Archer class card. Only Big Brother's mana can maintain my existence. If I don't have mana and Big Brother isn't by my side, I might die. Ilya is really cruel. Is it that serious? Ilya was a little flustered. Of course, Xiaofan's claim that only Wu Ming's mana could provide Xiaofan with mana was wrong. In fact, with Xiaofan's current mana, as long as she didn't use her mana in battle, it wouldn't be a problem to maintain her existence for a few days. But right now, Xiaofan was indeed at a critical point. In addition to the mana explosion just now, if she were to fight again, she might directly disappear. Most importantly, Wu Ming said that Xiaofan was his younger sister, so it wasn't a big deal for his younger sister to live with him. Alright, let Xiaofan stay. She is indeed lacking in mana now. Wu Ming spoke up for Xiaofan. Oh okay, but Xiaofan, you can't mess around with Big Brother. Ilya was still a little worried. Although they had just met, Ilya could already feel Xiaofan's mischievousness. That will depend on my mood. Ah, what a sly answer. Amid the noise, the Shuoyu residence returned to its happy time. Chapter 255. The next morning, Wu Ming took Little Black and Mei Yu from the Shuoyue residence to the Suigun Garden Academy. At this moment, Little Black, like Mei Yu, was wearing the uniform of the Sui Gun Garden Academy Primary School. This was Wu Ming's decision to let Little Black go to school. After all, Little Black could be very envious of Ilya's daily life. Wu Ming had long noticed this. As for the enrollment procedures, Wu Ming said that he knew some people in Winterwood City. Ahem, of course, Wu Ming's methods were all formal methods. Yes, that's right. Humph 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 hum. Little Black held Wu Ming's hand and hummed happily. Are you that happy, Little Black? Wu Ming asked. It's okay. I used to watch Ilya go to school in the third person. Now that I can experience it myself, it's inevitable that I'm a little excited. Then, have a good experience of school life, Wu Ming said with a smile. Yes, yes. I will cherish it, big brother, Little Black replied. At this moment, Wu Ming noticed that Mei Yu, who was holding his other hand, was a little absent-minded. What's wrong, Mei Yu? Wu Ming asked with concern. It's nothing, brother Wu Ming. Mei Yu shook her head. Wu Ming smiled. You don't look fine at all. However, even if Mei Yu didn't say it, Wu Ming could more or less guess. It was nothing more than Little Black and Ilya's identity as the Holy Grail that touched Mei Yu. I will protect you. Whether it's you, Little Black, or Ilya, I have the strength to protect you now. Wu Ming let go of Mei Yu's hand and patted Mei Yu's head. Oh, Mei Yu is so cunning. Big brother, I want it too. Little Black shook Wu Ming's hand and said coquettishly. Yes, yes, Wu Ming smiled helplessly, let go of Little Black's hand, and patted Little Black's head. At this moment, Wu Ming found that the three had already arrived at school. Then Mei Yu, Little Black, see you in the afternoon. Wu Ming waved at the two. Yes, brother Wu Ming, big brother. Goodbye. After Wu Ming left, he took out his phone and made a phone call. Yes, yes, this is Einsteinber. A lively female voice came from the other end of the phone. This is Wu Ming. Soon, Wu Ming made the call. Wu Ming returned to Shua Yu's house, opened Dragonist, and took out some precious items that Wu Ming collected over the years. The reason why Wu Ming did that was because Wu Ming was going to make an item in his magic workshop. Last night, Wu Ming transferred a lot of magical power to Little Black by entering Magician's avatar, and also cast a blessing on Little Black. However, no matter how long the blessing was, there was a time limit. After all, Little Black was still a servant, and it was a special kind of servant that consumed magical power all the time. Although Wu Ming and Little Black could sign a contract, and Little Black's magical power was provided by Wu Ming thought of a way to solve the problem. That was, to make an item that could automatically generate magical power, turn it into an organ similar to a magic circuit, and implant it into Little Black's body. In this way, Little Black would naturally be free. It took almost 2 or 3 hours. Wu Ming had a stone full of Lune runes in his hand. Fortunately, this body is a caster magician class, and it has the skill item creation, and I have your help, Collis. Otherwise, it will take me a few days to complete this item. At this time, Collis turned into a dragon horn crown with wings and floated beside Wu Ming. No, master, with your wisdom, even without me, you can complete it in a short time. Ha ha ha, you think too highly of me, Kelly. I do have wisdom, but compared to you, I'm still far behind. The magic attire made by Zelik should not be underestimated. Ruby and Sapphire could instantly turn an elementary school student into a magical girl who could easily suppress a first-class magician, which was enough to show the power of the magic attire made by Zelik. As a magic attire made by Zelik for Wu Ming, Collis's value was even higher than Ruby and Sapphire. After all, Ruby and Sapphire were used for battle, and Kelly was a special accessory. Moreover, Kelly had evolved into a silent noble phantasm, so she was no longer in the category of accessories. Seriously speaking, Kelly could now be considered as an elf. There's still some time before Ilya and the others finish school, just enough time to prepare for the parallel world. The parallel world that Wu Ming mentioned was naturally Julian, and the black mud born from the root. Wu Ming came to the door of the room in the center of the Shua Yu mansion. This room was just an ordinary bedroom, but Wu Ming stretched out his hand and muttered something. Then, the door of the room opened automatically, revealing a futuristic-looking control room. However, the color of the control room was stone-colored, as if it was some ancient technology. This was a place that even Mei Yu didn't know about. Wu Ming used spatial technology to superimpose a layer of space on the foundation of the original room. This layer of space was used as the control room of the Shuayu mansion. A magician's magic workshop generally had various traps that increased the owner's attack power and weakened the enemy. As Wuming's magic workshop, the Shuayu mansion was naturally not ordinary. As early as when Wuming built this magic workshop, Wuming began to build this control room. Wuming was not the kind of person who would not fight back after being beaten. Wuming set up this magic workshop for offense, not defense. There was a large platform in the center of the control room, and at the edge of the control room were unknown instruments. The upper limit was clearly engraved with lines. Inside the control room, Wuming took out the staff of Ain Zolone and the nameless spellbook. Wuming placed the staff of Ain Zolone in a long transparent cylinder, and the staff of Ain Zolone floated up. The nameless spellbook was placed by Wuming in a groove of a control panel. Then, Wuming sat on a platform in the center of the control room. This platform was similar to a sacrificial altar, and Wuming designed it to control the entire magic workshop with thought. After Wuming sat on the platform, he connected a line to his wrist, and a large amount of magic was transmitted to the control room. The whole control room began to operate on its own as if it had come over. The 7 gems on the staff of Ain's oral gown began to light up, and the entire staff began to glow with a myriad of colors. The nameless spellbook turned pages automatically, and countless words emerged from it and were absorbed by the lines on the control panel. Wuming used the staff of Ain Zolone as a key to store the countless high-level spells in the nameless spellbook into the Shuayu mansion, turning it into a cannon that could release countless high-level spells. Most of the magic transmitted was stored. After all, it was impossible to release countless high-level spells without the support of magic. This mobile cannon would become terrifying under the control of Wuming in the future. Chapter 256. In the beginning, Wuming also wanted to equip the Shuayu residents with an engine with infinite magic power, which could provide infinite magic power for the casting of magic. However, Wuming really could not make a device that could instantly extract and provide almost infinite magic power. The reason why he could make the so-called infinite magic power device for Little Black was only because the device would restore magic power to Little Black bit by bit. Simply put, it was the same as an ordinary magic circuit, storing magic power and slowly and automatically recovering it. The magic power supply device needed by the Shuayu residents needed to extract unimaginable magic power in an instant. If it was a device that slowly and automatically recovered magic power, the Shuayu residents was naturally equipped with it. However, there was no magic power device that could instantly produce unimaginable magic power. It was like a faucet. The size of the faucet and the pipe related to the amount of water produced. If it was a very thin pipe and a very small faucet, then the amount of water produced would be pitifully small. If it was a large pipe that was a few meters thick and a large faucet with a diameter that was also a few meters, the amount of water produced would definitely be much more. In Wuming's current view, the so-called magic power perpetual motion machine that could provide infinite magic power was only Wuming himself. As the root dragon, Wuming's magic power could be said to be infinite. The reason for this was that Wuming's magic power was really too much. Magic power recovery was far greater than magic power use, so Wuming had never worried about magic power issues. In short, Wuming could not make a device that provided infinite magic power. Therefore, Wuming came here whenever he was free and constantly stored magic power in the Shuayu residence's magic power warehouse. With the staff of Ain Zolgown as the key, the nameless spellbook as the attack text, and Wuming's infinite magic power as the driving force, this constructed a mobile, high firepower, infinite magic power turret. It was almost time for the elementary school of the Sui Kun Garden Academy to be dismissed. Wuming stopped the infusion of magic power, removed the wires on his arm, walked down the altar, and left the room. Wuming kept the brilliance of Ain Zoalgo and the nameless spellbook. Previously, Wuming had always been here, but when Wuming left, he took the 2 treasures away. The scene changed, and Wuming drove to the entrance of Sui Kun Yuan Primary School. After a few minutes, the school bell rang. Looking at the children coming out one after another, Wuming began to miss them. At this time, Wuming saw Ilya and the others come out. However, the situation was not looking good. Ilya looked at Little Black angrily, while Little Black had a happy smile on his face. Mayu sighed helplessly at the side. Needless to say, Xiao He must have provoked Ilya on purpose. Although Wuming and Blackie had only been together for a few days, Wu-ming understood Blacky's mischievous nature very well. Wu-ming helplessly shook his head. Wu-ming opened the door, got out of the car, and walked towards Ilya and the others. From afar, Blacky discovered Wu-ming. Big brother. Blacky waved his small hand and ran towards Wu-ming. Ah! It's Big Brother, Blacky. Don't run. Ilya also discovered Wu-ming, but after seeing Blacky run away, she immediately chased after him. Really? Mayu helplessly smiled and then ran after him. Big brother, Blacky missed you so much. Blacky can't wait to replenish his mana. Let's start now. Blacky hugged Wu-ming and rubbed against Wu-ming's chest. Then, he said something that made Ilya furious. No, no, no. Blacky, how can you be so unrestrained? Even if you want to replenish your mana, you can't do it on the streets. Ilya's face was flushed red. She instantly pounced on Wu-ming and stopped Blacky. Woo! Brother Wu-ming. Mayu ran over. She did not even have time to catch her breath. Yo, Mayu. Wu-ming greeted Mayu. Then, Wu-ming pulled Blacky and Ilya, who were lying on his body, away and squatted down. All right, it's time to go home. I drove here today. Blacky was excited again. Then, I want to sit in the front passenger seat. Blacky raised his small hand and said excitedly. Damn it, Blacky is so cunning. I want to sit in the front passenger seat too. Ilya fought for him. Humph. I said it first. I want to sit in the front passenger seat. I don't want to. Wu-ming smiled helplessly. Then he pulled Mayu's hand. Mayu will sit in the front passenger seat today. Huh. Mayu was shocked. Why is it like this? Ilya said with some regret. As expected, Mayu is the difficulty in getting Big Brother, Blacky said helplessly. Get me? What are you guys up to now? Wu-ming pretended to be serious as he looked at Ilya and Blacky. It's fine, it's fine. Let's go, Big Brother. That's right. It's better to go home quickly. Blacky and Ilya echoed each other. Wu-ming flicked Blacky and Ilya's foreheads. Ignoring Blacky and Ilya's screams, Wu-ming pulled Mayu toward the car. On the road, Wu-ming sat in the driver's seat and drove the car steadily. Mayu sat in the front passenger seat with a calm expression. Xiaofan and Ilya, on the other hand, sat obediently in the back row, looking like obedient girls. Later, Ilya will stay at my house and accompany Mayu. I need to do something with Blacky later. I've already spoken to Sarah for you. Huh. So sudden? I understand. Although Ilya was somewhat puzzled, she still nodded obediently. Mayu, I've already prepared the meal. I've already used magic to keep it warm. You and Ilya can eat directly after you go back. There's no need to wait for us, Wu-ming said to Mayu without turning his head. I understand, Brother Wu-ming. Mayu nodded her little head. Big Brother, what are you bringing me to do? It can't be something embarrassing, right? Blacky pretended to be shy as she touched her face. How could it be? Big Brother isn't that kind of person. Also, don't do these shameful actions again. Ilya blushed again because of Little Black. Humph. I won't. Ah. Soon, accompanied by Ilya's helpless screams and Blacky's smug laughter, Wu-ming drove to the Shuayu residence. Then we'll be leaving first, Wu-ming said to Mayu and Ilya, who got out of the car. Okay. Goodbye, Brother Wu-ming. Big Brother, be careful on the road. Wu-ming waved his hand and started the car. Then, where are you bringing me, Big Brother? Blacky sat in the front passenger seat and became serious. To see someone who's rather special to you, Blacky. Chapter 257. Wu-ming brought Little Black to a place, a small park near the school. At this moment, it was evening. For some reason, there was almost no one around. Wu-ming got out of the car and held Little Black's hand. Is the important person Big Brother mentioned here? Little Black looked up with a puzzled expression. However, Wu-ming did not answer Little Black's question. After walking a few steps, Wu-ming stopped. At the same time, Little Black, who was being held, also stopped. We're here. Little Black looked ahead. A noble lady with long snow-white hair was standing under the setting sun, waiting quietly. Just like when she saw Wu-ming and Little Black, The noble lady looked over and smiled. Liar, liar. Why are you here? Mother. That's right. Standing in the small park and waiting quietly was Little Black's mother, also Ilya's mother, Alice Phil von Erzburen. It's mother, Ilya. No, it's Chloe-chan. Alice Field greeted Xiao Hei with a smile. Blackie was at a loss of what to do. It was as if its legs were rooted to the ground and could not move. Why is mother here? Little Black was at a loss as he spoke. It's because Mr. Wooming called me. Only then did I know that so many things had happened to my daughter, Alice Phil said as she walked toward Wooming and Little Black step by step. Big brother. Little Black looked at Wooming with a wronged expression. Wooming patted Little Black's head, then gave Little Black's hand to him. After all, your real home is not here, Little Black. Also, you've always wanted to see your mother. Big brother. Wooming looked at Little Black with an encouraging gaze. Then, Little Black nodded silently and looked at Alice Phil who was walking over. Wooming left the small park and returned to the car, giving the mother and daughter some space. Through the car window, Wooming looked at Little Black who had begun to cry and Alice Phil who was comforting Little Black and wiping her tears. As early as noon, Wooming had set up a spell to disperse idle people here. Therefore, Wooming was not worried that someone would barge in and ruin the atmosphere between Little Black and Alice Phil. At noon, Wooming found Alice Phil's phone number from the information he asked from Zelik and called her. Then, Wooming told Alice Field about what had happened to Ilya during this time. Although Alice Field expressed that she was surprised, Wooming didn't believe that Alice Field didn't know about his daughter's situation during this time. As early as 10 years ago, the House of Einstein-Baron's family had disappeared. That was what he told Wooming. The House of Einstein-Baron's family has disappeared. Wooming could more or less guess. It was nothing more than being eliminated by her parents who wanted to protect Ilya through some means. The seal of the Holy Grail War was probably also facilitated by Ilya's parents. Wooming expressed that he wanted Little Black to meet Alice Phil, and Alice Phil readily agreed. As a result, the previous scene appeared. Little Black seemed to be relieved and gave up the idea of getting rid of Ilya, but that was only because Wooming was here. From the moment Little Black was born, her meaning was denied. Until now, the reason why Little Black wanted to kill Ilya was because Little Black was unwilling. Why can she have a family, but I can't? Why can she have friends, but I can't? Why can she have the right to enjoy daily life, but I can't? Why can she be loved by Big Brother, but I can't? This was Little Black's unwillingness. Now, Little Black already had family, friends, daily life, and even Wooming's love. However, maternal love was the only thing that Wooming couldn't give, and maternal love was what Little Black lacked the most. Through the car window, Wooming saw that Little Black had already thrown herself into Alice Phil's arms and was crying. Alice Phil patted Little Black's back. It seemed that Little Black and Alice Phil had reconciled. Now, the breath that Little Black held in her heart had been released. Looking at the mother and daughter hugging each other, Wooming couldn't help but think of Mei Yu. Wooming took out his phone and dialed Mei Yu's number. Brother Wooming? Mei Yu's puzzled voice came from the other end of the phone. Wooming vaguely heard Ilya's voice asking, "Is that Big Brother?" Mei Yu. No, it's fine. Let's go see the sea this weekend. Just the two of us. There was a rush of breathing from the other end of the phone. Then, a joyful voice came from the other end of the phone. At night, Wooming drove back to the Shuayu residence alone. Little Black, who was relieved with Alice Phil, had already gone home with Alice Phil. This was also the reason why Wooming let Ilya stay in his house. Let Little Black enjoy maternal love alone tonight. After getting out of the car, Wooming pushed open the door of the Shuayu residence and walked in. As soon as Wooming entered, he saw Mei Yu sitting alone on the side edge looking at the moon. Mei Yu, why aren't you sleeping yet? Wooming walked to the side edge and sat beside Mei Yu. I want to sleep with Brother Wooming tonight, Mei Yu said with a slightly red face. In response, Wooming smiled and patted Mei Yu's head. Then let's do it together. Okay. Mei Yu smiled. Her smile was very beautiful. Now, the depression in Mei Yu's heart for the past few days was also vented. The next day, at the entrance of the primary school of the Sway Garden Academy. Hey. Ilya's surprised voice came. Wooming held Mei Yu and Ilya's hand. Opposite him was Alice Phil and Little Black, who was holding Alice Phil's hand. At this moment, Little Black's face was filled with a smug smile as she looked at Ilya. "Long time no see, Ilya-chan." Alice Phil greeted Ilya happily. "Mom. Why is Mom here? When did you come back? Also, why was Little Black sent to school by Mom?" Ilya said with some jealousy. "That's because I'm Mom's real daughter. Ilya is just a little girl that everyone dotes on." Little Black began to tease Ilya again. "Humph. I still have Big Brother. Big Brother came to send me off today," Ilya said, unwilling to admit defeat. "Oh, is that so? Isn't Big Brother sending Mei you off and also sending you off?" Little Black narrowed her eyes and looked at Ilya. "Hey. This was Mei Yu who was innocently dragged into this." "No way, Little Black is an idiot." Accompanied by the noise, the three entered the school together. "Thank you very much, Mr. Wu-ming." Alice Phil bowed to Wu-ming to express her gratitude. Wu-ming waved his hand. "Madam, you don't have to do this. Whether it's Little Black or Ilya, they are the same as Mei Yu. They are all my sisters. This is what I should do. Also, even if I call you, you will come back, right?" Then, Wu-ming turned and left. "You're right, Mr. Hyunryong. I'll be counting on you from now on." Wu-ming stretched out a hand and waved without saying anything. Chapter 258. After a few days, Rin and Osaka and Luvia confirmed that Little Black was harmless, and Rin and Osaka resumed his inspection of the ley line. After all, his initial goal was to infuse mana into the ley line to detect any abnormalities. After infusing mana, Wu-ming's return and the backlash from the ley line's mana caused Little Black to appear. Now was the time to solve the ley line problem. Rin and Osaka found Wu-ming and wanted him to accompany him. "How should I put it? After all, you're the most capable one among us. It's safer with you around." These were Rin and Osaka's exact words. Wu-ming wasn't too interested in this, but if there was a problem with the ley line, he would have to spend money, and Winterwood City wouldn't have it easy. Therefore, Wu-ming followed Rin and Osaka to the big hole in Yuzong Mountain. Fortunately, the previous collapse only buried the entrance, and the interior wasn't too damaged. After clearing the entrance, Wu-ming and Rin and Osaka entered the big hole without much trouble. After choosing the location, Rin and Osaka set up a series of instruments and began to inspect the ley line. After chanting a series of incantations, Rin Enbin tossed a burning gem onto a piece of parchment that was placed on a rack. In an instant, the parchment began to burn in a regular pattern from where the gemstone had fallen. A strange map appeared. It was a plain map of Winterwood City's ley line. "What?" Rin and Osaka said in disbelief. Wu-ming walked over to take a look, and found that on the thickest ley line, there was a small square flaw. "Is that the mirror realm?" Wu-ming said uncertainly. "Yes, without a doubt, this is the mirror realm of the class card." Rin and Osaka said solemnly. "The 9th class card?" Wu-ming said thoughtfully. "Logically speaking, that class card shouldn't exist. Shiro Amiya from Meiyo's world used 7 class cards to send Meiyu to this world. Including Wu-ming, there were a total of 8 class cards. From what Wu-ming knew, there were 9 class cards created by Ainsworth. King Arthur's Saber, Cuculin's Lancer, Hero King's Archer, Medusa's Rider, Demetrius's Caster, Hassan's Assassin, and Hercules and Lancelot's Berserker. Lancelot's card had always been kept by Sakura Madu. At that time, Sakura thought that the card given by Julian was Gilgamesh's card, so she didn't have time to use Lancelot's card before Shinji Madu knocked her unconscious. Shiro Amiya's card was originally a useless one. Because of an accident, it connected to the future heroic spirit on the heroic spirit throne, which was the heroic spirit that Shiro Amiya transformed into in a parallel world. The Holy Grail ritual only required 7 class cards, and Wu-ming himself was considered a stowaway. Therefore, Wu-ming really couldn't figure out why there was another class card. "Well, with you as an extra caster class card, I'm almost used to having a few more class cards," Rin and Osaka said somewhat dispiritedly. "Do you hate the trouble?" Wu-ming said rather helplessly. Wu-ming could naturally see that the reason why Rin and Osaka was so dispirited was naturally because there was one more class card that needed to be recycled. "That's for sure. Let's not talk about the great master's request for us to analyze the class cards. Even I don't have much confidence in this additional 9th card. Wuming also had a dignified look on his face. Rin and Osaka was right. This class card must have appeared around the time when other class cards appeared. So, after a month, this card had absorbed a lot of mana from the ley line, and its own strength was almost comparable to a real servant. If this class card was a first-class card, then it was likely to have evolved to the strength of a first-class servant. If Wuming's original body was here, Wuming naturally didn't need to be afraid. However, the current Wuming was just a clone of Wuming's original body that was projected in this world after the root fell asleep. Naturally, his strength was greatly weakened. As for the recycling of this class card, leave it to me. I don't need the help of you, including Ilya and the others. Rin and Osaka struggled a few times, and then he was relieved. That's right. Even the recycling of the previous class cards required your help. This time, even if we participate, I'm afraid we will only be a burden. Wuming smiled and then comforted Rin and Osaka. Don't be so pessimistic. I still know a little about the analysis of class cards, and I should be able to help you. Although Wuming could directly use his skills to create class cards, the class cards that he created had a time limit, and it must be a class card that had been analyzed before. Because of this, Wuming knew a little about the structure of class cards. It had to be said that Julian was really a rare genius in 100 years, or even 1,000 years. He modified the most basic replacement magic and made it extremely powerful. Even the power of heroic spirits could be replaced. Unfortunately, Julian was almost completely corroded by the black mud. Now, there was no hope for him. Really? You really know the structure of class cards? Rin and Osaka's eyes lit up as if he wanted to devour Wuming. He stared at Wuming covetously. I know a little. After the recycling of the last class card, I will help you analyze it. Wuming waved his hand to calm Rin and Osaka down. He. Actually, you only need to help me analyze it. You don't have to care about Wuxia. Rin and Osaka had a fawning expression. Let's talk about this later. Let's go back and tell Ilya and the others about the class cards problem and prepare for the recycling. As he spoke, Wuming began to walk toward the entrance of the big hole. I still think it's better not to tell Ilya and the others. With their personality, they definitely won't let you take the risk alone. Rin and Osaka followed behind Wuming and expressed his opinion. Wuming shook his head. Although that's the case, don't forget that with their observational skills, they'll definitely notice something abnormal. Ignoring Ilya for now, Mei Yu is my younger sister. She's been with me for 5 years. She'll definitely notice anything that I do. Now that you mention it, it does seem to be the case. Rin and Osaka nodded. Then, Rin and Osaka asked again. Right, the class cards mirror world is deep underground. How are you going to go down? Do you need my and Wuxia's help? I'm going to use brute force. Brute force? Rin and Osaka was confused. Yes, we will use high-density magic to dig underground until we reach the mirror world. Rin and Osaka was speechless. Leave the opening of the tunnel to us. Rin and Osaka wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. As expected, heroic spirits were a bunch of weird existences. Chapter 259. Wuming and Rin Enbin went their separate ways. Wuming returned to the Shuayu residence while Rin Enbin went to Wuxia's house to discuss the matter. As for Blackie, because he had a heart-to-heart talk with his mother, Alice Field, a few days ago, he moved out of Wuming's house and returned to his own home. Although Ilya still looked unhappy, anyone could tell that she was very happy. Wuming returned to the Shuayu residence. As soon as he entered the house, he saw Mei Yu looking at some photos with great interest. They were photos taken a few days ago when Wuming and Mei Yu went to the beach together. They were basically photos of Wuming and Mei Yu. As for who took the photos, it was naturally Cullis. You've been looking at them for a few days. Haven't you seen enough? Wuming realized that Mei Yu did not notice Wuming and hugged Mei Yu from behind. Ah! Mei Yu let out a cute cry. It's brother Wuming. Don't scare me. Mei Yu blushed and looked at Wuming with some resentment. Mei Yu, Sama was too engrossed in the photos and didn't notice Wuming, Sama's arrival. Sapphire explained. Ming let go of Mei Yu and sat beside Mei Yu. He patted Mei Yu's head. Don't be too attached to these photos. This kind of life will continue. I will also often look at the sea with you. So, you must always let me see Mei Yu's smile. I know, brother Ming. Mei Yu smiled and enjoyed Ming's patting. Suddenly, Ming's phone rang. Ming picked up the phone and heard Rin Enbin's voice. There's an enemy attack. Something happened to Livia. What's wrong, brother Ming? Mei Yu looked at the serious Ming and asked. Something happened to Livia's house. Something happened? Moving forward in the timeline, Rin Enbin, who had parted ways with Ming, arrived at Livia's house and instantly realized that something was wrong. Livia's house was set up with a barrier. As long as one was outside the barrier, no matter how one looked, the interior would not change. As a first-rate magician, Rin Enbin was naturally able to detect a trace of mana emanating from the barrier at such a close distance. He pushed the door open and walked in. A series of explosions and sounds of fighting came out of the mansion. Damn, there really is an enemy attack. Then, Rin Enbin took out his phone and called Ming. There's an enemy attack. Something happened to Livia. With that, Rin Enosaka hung up the phone and rushed into the house. As soon as he entered the house, Rin Enbin noticed that the battle was happening in the living room. Therefore, Rin Enbin entered the mansion through another small door. Then, Rin Enbin came to the living room and saw the battle through the side door. Livia was standing in a corner, looking at a purple-haired tomboy with a serious expression. The tomboy was fighting with a white-haired, white-bearded, and bespectacled old man wearing a steward's uniform. Ming had seen this old man before. He was Livia's steward, Audiist. The tomboy was Bazette, who wanted to take back Ming's rank card. Damn, why did it have to be this guy? If it wasn't for Ming, I don't think all of us could beat her. Rin Enbin said in frustration. He then took out a few gems and threw them at Bazette's back. In an instant, a large explosion occurred. Although they couldn't beat Bazette even if they worked together, Rin Enbin didn't want to beat Bazette. After all, Rin Enbin had already notified Ming. As long as we can delay until Ming arrives, it'll be our victory. With this thought in mind, Rin Enbin tossed a few more gems into the smoke of the explosion. Another explosion occurred. Rin Enbin, why did you come out? Looking at Rin Enbin who appeared to attack Bazette, Livia said with some annoyance. I've already notified Ming. He'll be here soon. Rin Enbin took out a few more gems and prepared to shoot them at Bazette. Ming? You guys are quite confident in this person. Although I don't know who this person is, and I don't know if he has the ability to defeat me, you don't have to worry about that, because... Bazette's voice pierced through the smoke. Bazette waved his hand and a gust of wind blew the smoke away. I can defeat all of you before he arrives. TSK. Looks like he's going to use his true strength. Be careful, Livia. Rin Enbin said with a frown. Of course I know. You better take care of yourself. Rin Enbin. Livia also had a serious expression on her face. However, she didn't forget to bicker with Rin Tozaka during the battle. This wasn't something to be praised. Immediately after, Livia, Audiist, and Rin Enbin surrounded Bazette and started a 3-versus-1 battle, but they were suppressed instead. Ming opened the teleportation door and brought Mei Yu and Sapphire to Livia's house. Coincidentally, Ilya, Blackie, and Ruby also arrived at Livia's house. Ilya, Blackie, did you guys also receive a call from Sister Rin? Mei Yu asked when she saw her friends. Ilya and Blackie shook their heads. We just heard an explosion in Sister Livia's house, so Ruby, Blackie, and I came out. Did Big Brother and Mei Yu get called over by Sister Rin? Ilya answered Mei Yu's doubts and asked a question while she was at it. Well, Sister Rin just called Brother Ming, saying that there are enemies attacking. Livia and Brother Ming directly used Brother Ming's magic teleportation door to bring Sapphire and me here. Mei Yu said with some fear. Because Mei Yu had never experienced a teleportation door, so when Mei Yu entered the teleportation door, she felt a bit uncomfortable with the teleportation door's black hole. Let's go in quickly. Ming was a bit worried about Rin Enbin and Livia's safety. Enemies that could make Rin Enbin send out a distress signal. Whether the two of them could hold on was another matter. Ilya and the others also nodded. Then, Ming pushed open the big iron door and walked in. The glass on the lower floor was completely shattered, and it looked like a villa that had been attacked by terrorists. Boom! A terrifying loud sound came from the villa. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me who have wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people can't hit me. Wu-Ming chanted the words of the Phoenix incarnation. Following a burst of illusory body, the afterimage left behind on the spot gradually disappeared. Wu-Ming disappeared in front of Ilya and the others. This was a phenomenon of excessive speed. Ilya, Mei Yu, Blackie, I'll go in first. The three of you be careful. At this time, Wu-Ming's voice came from the void. So fast. This was what the three of them were thinking. Chapter 260. Wu-Ming activated lightning speed and instantly arrived at the villa's living room. As soon as he entered the hall, what entered Wu-Ming's eyes was a dilapidated scene. Luvia's butler, Auguste, was knocked unconscious and leaned against a sunken wall. Luvia was held by the neck by Bizette and hung up. Rin and Osaka was lying on the ground, but from the expression on his face, it could be seen that Rin and Osaka had been trying to stand up. Seeing Wu-Ming came, Rin and Osaka simply gave up the idea of standing up. Really, you finally came, we almost couldn't hold on. Rin and Osaka was lying face down on the ground. His voice was muffled. What do you mean almost couldn't hold on? We couldn't hold on. It's all your fault, Rin and Osaka. Why did you come out so early? Maybe we could have held on a little longer. Luvia was held by the neck and weakly complained. Seeing you guys so energetic, I really don't know why I rushed here. Seeing Rin and Osaka and Luvia still so energetic, Wu-Ming waved his hand with a slight smile. Then, Wu-Ming looked at Bizette rather seriously. So Bizette, you can let go now. Bizette immediately let go of Luvia and faced Wu-Ming in a serious posture. Ever since Wu-Ming's arrival, Bizette's entire body tensed up. After Wu-Ming saw that the enemy was Bizette, he could almost guess what was going on. It was nothing more than some small tricks from the clock tower's higher-ups. For these higher-ups, Wu-Ming decided to go back and have a chat with them. Didn't they like heroic spirits and servants? Wu-Ming will let them like it. For Bizette, the enemy in front of him was the Wu-Ming that Rin and Osaka and Luvia spoke of. Although he didn't know why this servant appeared here, and he didn't know why it had such a good relationship with Rin Enbin and the others, it didn't prevent Bizette from knowing that Wu-Ming was an enemy. However, to Wu-Ming, there was nothing to fear from Bizette. As long as Bizette was not allowed to use the backlight sword, he would not be a threat to Wu-Ming at all. Wu-Ming wasn't a sure kill method, but he had plenty of methods. No matter how bad it was, he could still use force to subdue Bazette. I almost forgot that I didn't tell you my name. For you, the name Wu-Ming might not be enough for you to remember. Wu-Ming looked at the unusually vigilant Bazette and smiled. Just as he was about to introduce himself, Bazette interrupted him. The great sage who taught the most ancient king, the Yura Qianriyong. Bazette's eyes shone. Wu-Ming was a little surprised. I didn't expect that after a short period of contact, you could actually guess my real name. This is worthy of praise, but... Wu-Ming's magical power suddenly erupted, and the originally broken floor directly turned into powder. A large number of Lune runes quickly wrapped around Wu-Ming's body. This was Wu-Ming using Lune runes to strengthen himself. His master, Skaha, often did this because it was more convenient. Bizette, who had a little knowledge of Lune runes, understood the meaning of these runes at a glance. All of them are power. Yes, Wu-Ming used a large number of Lune runes that represented power to strengthen himself. For Bizette, who also used Lune runes to strengthen his hands, after a large number of Lune runes enhancement, Wu-Ming's physical strength had reached an incredible level. For ordinary people, as long as they were touched, their body would instantly shatter. If it was a magician. Although it's not as good as the giant incarnation, but I'll be gentle. If you are hit, your life or death is up to fate. Wu-Ming finished and disappeared. In a flash, Wu-Ming, who had not yet exited from the lightning speed state, instantly appeared behind Bizette. What? Bizette gritted his teeth and frowned. With such a fast speed, even she could only catch a trace of shadow. She only saw Wu-Ming lightly throwing a punch, and the fist fell on Bizette's body. Bang! Bizette was heavily hit by Wu-Ming and was directly hit out of the hall by Wu-Ming. With Wuming as the center, the entire floor was completely shattered. Even Luvia's villa began to shake. The impact of Wuming's fist broke the supporting structure of Luvia's villa. If it wasn't for the magic protection of Luvia's house and Wuming's deliberate mercy, Luvia's villa would have collapsed. Wuming put the Phoenix Incarnation and the Enhanced Strength Lune runes in contact, and then picked up 3 stones from the ground. Wuming's hand gently touched the stones, and 3 Lune runes full of vitality were engraved on the stones. Wuming threw 2 stones to Luvia, who was weak but could still stand. Luvia hurriedly caught the stones and looked at Wuming in confusion. These are the Lune runes that represent life. You can use them by injecting magic into them. You can use one first, and the other one is for Ogiest. Thank you, Wuming, Luvia said sincerely. Wuming was a little surprised. I didn't expect Miss to have such a frank side. After all, Luvia could be very arrogant. It was difficult for her to say a word of thanks. The people of the Eiderfelt family naturally repay kindness. As the next head of the Eiderfelt family, I naturally can't disgrace the family. Luvia instantly became arrogant again. After thanking him, Luvia walked toward Ogiest. Ogiest had been in close combat with Bazet, so he had suffered a lot of damage. Compared to Luvia, who could still move, Ogiest, who had fainted, undoubtedly needed it the most. Wuming didn't care about her and walked toward Rin Enbin. You finally came. I can only say that you're worthy of being called you. You can even subdue a monster that can fight a servant. Although Rin Enbin said weakly, Wuming could sense that although Rin Enbin's body was seriously injured, his magic was still sufficient. His inability to stand was only caused by physical injuries. You heard what I said to Luvia just now. Hurry up and use it. Wuming said as he handed the stone engraved with Lune runes to Rin Enbin. I got it. You should go take a look at Bazet first. That guy is known as a monster. Maybe he's still alive and kicking. Although Wuming deliberately showed mercy, Wuming's punch was not that easy to take. Wuming estimated that Bazet might be paralyzed on the ground now. Yes, I know, Miss Rin. However, because of Rin Enbin's eagerness, Wuming prepared to go and see. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.